jingle hop has begun. Jingle bell rock. Jingle bells chime in jingle bell time. Prancing and prancing, jingle bell square. In the frosty air. What a right time, it's the right time to rock the night away. Jingle bell time, it's a good time. You go get lighted in a one-horse sleigh. Giddy up, jingle off, pick up your feet. Jingle around the clock. Mix and mingle in the jingle street. That's the jingle bell, that's the jingle bell, that's the jingle bell rock. Come on, guys. Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring. Snowing and blowing, the bushes are fun. Now the jingle hop has begun. Jingle bell rock. Jingle bells chime in jingle bell time. Dancing and prancing in jingle bell square. In the frosty air. What a right time, it's the right time to rock the night away. Jingle bell time, it's the right time to go colliding in a one-horse sleigh. Giddy up, jingle horse, pick up your feet. Jingle around the clock. Mix and mingle in the jingle street. That's the jingle bell, that's the jingle bell, that's the jingle bell rock.
I'm Brian. I'm the campus pastor here. I'm so glad you guys picked Christmas Eve to hang out with us. We are kind of a different type of church. If you're new here, we do things a little bit differently, but man, we are so glad you are here. On your chair is a connection card. We would love to know who you are, if you're a first-time guest or if you just are hanging out with us again, you know, and you come on a regular basis. We'd love to know that if you've never filled one of these out. Please do that, because if you're a first-time guest, we actually make a donation on your behalf to Mission of Hope, where we sponsor kids in Haiti so that they can go to school. You have to pay to go to school in Haiti, and so please do that. Then on the back side, if you're new, you'll see all kinds of things that go on here. So we have a jobs program getting ready to kick off after the first of the year. We have a community restore program, which is like a group of community people that just get together, that if you're struggling with a hurt or a hang up, man, it's a great program. They're actually having a big event here on New Year's Day. So if you want to make a change in your life, that's a great day to come and hang out with them. That happens at 5 o'clock. And then they start meeting on Tuesdays after that. But fill this card out. On the back here is also a place where you can write prayer requests. If you'll fill that out, you can tear it off at the end of service today, and you can put it in those trash can looking things in the back. And we have a whole team that'll pray over these cards. And so we'd love to know who you are and connect with you. Also on your chair is an invite card. It's not for you. It's for you to give somebody to bring them here and have breakfast on Sundays. So if you're new, we do a free hot breakfast every Sunday morning. And this is just a great way to invite them to come and have breakfast with you. And then we'll let them know that they're at church when they get here. So just give that to them. So we got a special service tonight planned for you guys. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think. We have a topic about the Grinch, and we're all familiar with the Grinch. But before we do that, I love this time of year because it's the time of year where you actually get mail now. You know, you get like Christmas cards in the mail because we don't hardly get mail anymore. And so I wanted to take a few minutes and just share some of my Christmas cards that I've received this year with you guys. Would that be all right? Yeah. All right. So I know that Christmas can be stressful for us, and especially my dysfunctional family, it can be really stressful. So I was glad to get this card in the mail. It says, hope spending time with your family for the holidays doesn't undo all the progress you've made with your therapist. So that actually applies to our family really well. And then I got this one. It says, I'm not quite sure, though, what they're trying to convey in this, whether it's maybe a WWF message or something that says, Season's greetings, Josh and Patty, Bone Crusher Johnson, and the boys Blade and Thor. I don't really know what that one was all about. Now, this next card I want to share with you, this is truly how to enjoy the holidays. I want to thank my friends for sending this card to me because it reminds me how ugly their kids are getting every year. And how about those people that send their annual newsletter, their annual family newsletter in their card? Doesn't it remind you of why you haven't checked in with them all year long? Now, this one's a really beautiful card. It's a card of Santa committing arson by hanging these long, flammable pieces of fabric called a stocking right above a roaring fire. Makes no sense to me. And then this next card's nothing like getting this card to remind us of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Yeah. It's just wrong. And then this card reminds me of what it would look like if Jesus' family did the mannequin challenge. Yeah, so there are my Christmas cards that I got this year, and I was able to, thank you for letting me share those with you. So, hey, today we're going to be talking about the Grinched. The band's going to play a lot of Christmas songs for us. So if you are stressed out, if you are worried about anything this Christmas, just put it off to the side. Just set it off to the side and just enjoy the next 45 minutes. And just try not to think of that stuff and just lean in to this moment here and experience it with us. Listen to this.
Mr. Grinched, you really are a hero. You're as cuddly as the cactus, as charming as a mule. Mr. Grinched, you're a bad banana with a greasy black beard. You're a monster, Mr. Grinched. Your heart's an empty hole. Your brain is full of spiders. You got colic in your soul, Mr. Grinched. I wouldn't touch you with a 39.5-foot ball. You're a foul one, Mr. Grinched. You're a nasty, nasty skunk. Your heart's full of oil socks, your soul's full of junk, Mr. Grinched. The three words that best describe you are as followed, and I quote: stink, stink, stink! You're a vile one, Mr. Grinched. You have termites in your smile. You have all the tender sweetness of a seasick crocodile, Mr. Grinched. Given the choice between the two of you, I take the seasick crocodile. You're a rotter, Mr. Grinched. You're the king of simple suns. Your heart's a dead tomato spots with only purple spots, Mr. Grinched. Your soul is appalling dump heap overflowing with the most disgraceful assortment of deplorable rubble, rubbish smashable, mangled up, tangled up, Mr. Grinched. Mr. Grinched. Mr. Grinch.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. I love that song. He's so mean, he stole Christmas. You know, Dr. Seuss first published the book, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, in 1957. 61 years later, we can still all relate to the Grinch. The Grinch is bitter, grouchy. He's a cave-dwelling creature with a heart that is 2 sizes too small. He lives as a hermit on the snowy top of Mount Crumpet, a steep high mountain just north of the town of Whoville. His only companion is his unloved but loyal dog, Max. From his cave up there, the Grinch can hear the noisy Christmas festivities that are taking place down in Whoville. And he's so annoyed. He just can't take it. So he devises this wicked scheme to steal all the presents, all the trees, and all the food from Whoville so that they can't have their Christmas feast. The Grinch is an unpleasant character, to say the least. He doesn't like to be happy, so he doesn't want anyone else to be happy. The joy that the Who's experience at Christmas in Whoville is just too much for him to take.
You're
The Grinch gaze into the face of fear. Booga booga!
Aaron B. Benson who? I hate you. Hate, 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 hate. Double hate.
Loathe entirely. Even now, the terror is welling up inside you. Yes, this Christmas music. It's joyful and triumphant. Denial is to be expected in the face of pure evil. It's not a dress, it's a kilt. Sicko. No, you're doomed.
Excuse me.
Run for your life before I kill again! Yes! Down eyes and a hat! This time, I'll keep it all. Even if I wanted to go. My schedule wouldn't allow it. 4 o'clock, wallow in self-pity. 4:30, stare into the abyss. 5 o'clock, solve world hunger. Tell no one. 5:30, jazzercise. 6:30, dinner with me. I can't cancel that again. Ooh. Ah. That's it, I'm not going.
Do you know anyone like the Grinch? Not just, don't point at your spouse, that's not good. Not just someone who doesn't like Christmas, but someone who is never happy and they don't want any of the people around them to be happy. The term Grinch has become synonymous with people who are grouchy and grumpy, not just at Christmas time, but all the time. If we think about it, we can all probably name someone who reminds us of the Grinch. And if we're honest, there are times when we are the Grinch. While we might not steal Christmas, we might steal people's peace and joy by being grumpy and irritable and just plain unpleasant. The truth is that there is a little bit of Grinch in all of us. And while that can lead to disaster around us, but we're not going to steal trees or presents or food, our attitudes and our actions do steal people's joy. So what is it that makes us the Grinch? Well, the same thing that made the Grinch so unpleasant can make us unpleasant as well. See, the Grinch, he had a heart condition. Like we saw in that video, his heart was 2 sizes too small. He was holding on to anger and bitterness. And what makes us a Grinch is a heart that withers away because it's not used to loving and forgiving others. When we hold on to the bitterness and pain of our past and harbor all of our hurts and disappointments, it'll just eat away at us. And we'll begin to resent anyone being happy. And we want to make their life miserable.
Has everyone given their gifts?
I haven't. Merry Christmas, Martha May.
Why do you have a bag on your head?
Probably because he's embarrassed by that idiot or his gift.
Mr. Grinch, please take the bag off. Yes, you take it off. Put the book down. And your foot.
Look at that hack job. Stupid cribbage! Stupid prank! I hate Christmas!
The anger, the fury,
The muscles. It was a horrible day when they were so cruel to him. And I could hardly bear it.
I hate Christmas! I hate it!
The Grinch was an outcast, a misfit. He was chased out of town. He felt unwanted. The story of the Grinch shows us 2 paths in life that we can choose to take. One of bitterness and resentment, or one of love and forgiveness. That very first Christmas, 2,000 years ago in the city of Bethlehem, a baby was born into poverty and scandal. His mom was pregnant and not married. her fiance is going to break up with her, but an angel appears and won't let him do that. Mom rides for days pregnant on the back of a donkey, and when they get to town, there's no room for them at the inn. And they have to sleep in this dirty barn with animal pooping and peeing everywhere. And to make matters worse, there's this king, King Herod the Great. And he hears that this baby is going to have a greater kingdom than he is. King Herod's heart is bitter and resentful. So he issues an order to find and kill the baby. The family is forced to flee to another country, to Egypt, just to survive. The baby was an outcast, a misfit, not only chased out of town, but chased out of the country. Some people here have been raised in homes where the attitude of resentment and bitterness was experienced all the time in their house. So they learned how to be a Grinch. They learned that to hold on to the past and never let go of a grudge. But see, when we don't use our hearts to forgive and we don't let go of the bitterness and resentment, then we lose the capacity to love, and our hearts begin to shrink like the Grinch's. When we hold on to the pain of the past, we keep our hearts from beating and growing, and before we know it, our hearts are 2 sizes too small, and we have become the Grinch. And we can all become the Grinch if we aren't careful about how we use our hearts. A grandfather is talking to his grandson, and he says, there are 2 wolves inside of us which are always at battle. The grandson stops and thinks about it for a second and says, what do you mean, Grandpa? Well, one of the wolves is good, and it represents things like kindness and forgiveness and love. And the other wolf is a bad wolf, and it represents things like bitterness and hatred and resentment. Grandson then asks his grandfather, well, which one wins? And the grandfather quietly replies, the one you feed. Which one we become is determined by which one we focus on and which one we feed. If we feed the Grinch in us, our grumpy attitude can lead us to make life miserable for those around us. And this is what happened to the Grinch. His attitude finally led him to come up with this wonderfully awful plan, this idea to steal Christmas.
My sweet little dog.
The fake Santa Claus lied.
There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there. And I'll bring it back here.
Santa, what's Christmas really about?
Vengeance!
Presents, I suppose.
I was afraid of that.
And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed.
Santa,
What?
don't forget the Grinch. I know he's mean and hairy and smelly. His hands might be cold and clammy. But I think he's actually kind sweet.
Sweet! You don't think he's sweet?
Merry Christmas, Santa.
And when Cindy Lou went up with her cup,
Nice kid.
bad judge of character, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up.
The Grinch stole everything that he thought made Christmas important to the Who's. And he took it all up to Mount Carmel, where he was going to destroy it. The baby that flees to Egypt, the one that will have this greater kingdom than Herod the Great, well, I think you know his name is Jesus. He grows up and gives us examples of how to live a life with love and forgiveness in our hearts. He ends up living and loving all of humanity so that we could use that example of how to live our life. He was actually willing to lay down his own life for each one of us, because there is no greater love than to give up your life for one another. As he's being put to death for all of our wrongs and all of our mistakes, there's no resentment or bitterness, only an ask of forgiveness, not for him, but for us. So why does Jesus not become a Grinch? Because he chose the path of love and forgiveness, and not the path of bitterness and resentment. In these two stories, we're given two pictures of who we might be at the holidays and all through our life. But it depends on which path we choose to take. Will we be the Grinch, or will we be like Jesus? Will we be grumpy or gracious? Frustrating or forgiving? Unlovable or loving? We feed the Grinch by focusing on all the disappointments we've had in our life and all the pain that we've gone through. We feed the Grinch by holding on to the hurt and remembering all the times we've been offended and mistreated when life hasn't gone our way. And the more we feed the Grinch, the more our hearts shrink in size. The Grinch's heart was 2 times too small because he didn't use it. He didn't forgive people. But the heart of Jesus, it was large. It overflowed with love. He offered forgiveness when he had every reason not to. See, forgiveness isn't about being right or wrong. Forgiveness is for your heart, not for the other person. Bitterness and resentment, it's like drinking a bottle of poison and hoping the other person dies. But forgiveness and love, that brings us life. And it makes our heart grow, not shrink. On Christmas morning, the Grinch expected to hear the Who's weeping and crying and wailing. But instead, what he heard down in Whoville was all the Who's singing. See, when the Who's got up that morning, they weren't sad or angry that all their presents, all their gifts, all their toys, all their trees, and all their food were gone, because they knew the real meaning of Christmas. It wasn't
Every
found.
Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came.
Somehow or other, it came just the same.
the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling.
How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags.
And he puzzled and puzzled till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before.
Maybe Christmas.
He thought,
Doesn't come from a star. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more.
Nurse! Help me! I'm feeling.
and what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day.
See, the real meaning of Christmas, it wasn't found in trees and toys. The real meaning of Christmas was to show love and kindness to others. The real meaning of Christmas was to forgive and live at peace with one another, heart to heart, hand in hand. So God works to help us feed the who that lives in all of us, and we feed the who by loving and forgiving others. When we focus on Jesus and take time to live by his example, we are feeding the who in us. During this season of the year, it's easy to feed the Grinch because we get so easily stressed out and disappointed. But it's also a great opportunity and a great time to feed the who. There's stories all around us of people who need to be loved. This is a great time of year to feed the who in us and exercise our heart muscles by loving those around us. And it's also a great time of year to forgive. If there's someone who has hurt you and that pain is lingering in your heart, you've got to let it go for your heart to grow. Holding on to a grudge only hurts us, and it keeps our heart from growing. We need to reach out to God who has forgiven us and allow the power of his love to help us to forgive others. We feed the who in us by learning to forgive and letting go of the pain stored up from our past. And when we do that, our hearts grow. They transform. Jesus teaches that the path to greatness is to be the least. And when you put the needs of others above your own, you actually find life. You will find this fullness in life that will make your heart grow. But again, you can only do that by letting go of your past, letting go of any bitterness or resentment, and really begin to forgive others. Maybe some of you are here tonight, and the first person you need to forgive is you. You know, Jesus forgave you so that you could forgive yourself. See, there's nothing you need to hang on to any longer. Jesus laid down his life for you. So this Christmas, instead of thinking about maybe what you don't have or getting resentful for not getting the best of the best presents, maybe take the other path, the one of love and forgiveness. And as the band comes up here to sing some great Christmas songs tonight, to God, about God, and for God, just really lean into those songs and see if God doesn't bring to mind some hurt, something you need to let go of. And while they play this first song, this will be a great time to light your candle and let all of the Grinches of the world see your love shine. 'Cause maybe you need the love of Jesus for the very first time this Christmas. Or maybe there's somebody in your life that you really need to forgive. So as you listen to these songs, talk to Jesus about that. Do it in your head or in your heart or out loud. Just invite him into your life to help you through that process. And when you do that, your heart will grow. We don't pass an offering bucket here. If you're new here, this is just our gift to you. If Gateway is your church home, we have buckets set up there in the back, and we give out of the gratitude of all that God has done for us. If you'd like somebody to pray with you tonight, there'll be people over here to my left, your right, over by the wreath that would love to do that. If you're choosing Jesus for the first time, if you're wanting Jesus to speak into your life so that you are no longer a Grinch, they would love to pray with you. So we have a choice. We can be a Grinch or we can be a who. Forgiveness is the way that our hearts grow. So who do you need to forgive this Christmas? Who do you need to love? Is it a family member? A friend? Maybe it's you. Don't drink that bottle of poison. Begin to live a life of love. Begin to live the life God intended you to live. Begin to live like Jesus, not the Grinch. Listen to these songs.
Love incarnate, love divine. Star and angels gave the sign. Thou to babe on bended knee, the Savior of humanity. Unto us a child is born, he shall reign forevermore. Come and see what God has done. The story of amazing love, the light of the world, given for us. Noel, Son of God and Son of Man, there before the world began. Born to suffer, born to save, born to raise us from the grave. Christ the everlasting Lord, He shall reign forevermore. Noel, Noel, come and see what God has done. Noel, Noel, the story of amazing love, the light of the world, given for us. Noel, 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 come and see what God has done. Noel, Noel, the story of amazing love, the light of the world, given for us. Noel, Noel. Peace, bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break. At your name, still, call the sea to still, the rage in me to still, every wave. At your name, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, breathe, call these bones to live, call these lungs to sing once again. I will pray, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, 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 you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is a light forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, 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 you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. This song fills me with fear every time we go to do it. I get so worried about the faces I make when I sing, which I know is ridiculous, but especially when you have to sing so high and loud. I'm like, that's all I can imagine. So I'm like super praying when I read this, sing this to Jesus about him silencing the fear that I have. I'm singing this to him and not for the faces I make, besides the fact that the last few weeks I've been super grinchy, very grinchy. The rage in me, and I ask him to still that. Every day I wake up and I feel like, how can I have so much anger for no reason? Like, it just, nothing's even going on. And it's just, as soon as I react the wrong way to something, I get mad at myself, and I don't forgive myself. And then I beat myself up, and then I'll react wrong because I'm beating myself up, and your heart can shrink really quick, and it also can grow really quick as soon as I decide to forgive myself. And I think we all need to do that more.
The stars shine, and its splendor fills up the sky. It's the same that appeared as the wise men revered when hope was born this night. Out upon the snowy fields, there's a silent peace that heals, and it echoes the grace of our Savior's embrace, because hope was born this night. Glory to God in the highest, peace on earth, goodwill toward men. Let all of the world sing the glorious of God, because hope was born this night. I can hear the Christmas bells ring as softly a church choir sings. It's a song used to pray the ancient of days when hope was born this night. There are angels in this place, and my heart resounds the praise. Like a shepherd so scared, I'll rejoice and declare that hope was born this night. Glory to God in the highest, peace on earth, goodwill toward men. Let all of the world sing the glory of God, because hope was born this night. Gloria, 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 Gloria. Glory to God in the highest, peace on earth, goodwill toward men. Let all of the world sing the chorus of joy, because hope was born this night. Hope was born this night. Hope was born this right, this song we pumped it up a little bit. It's a little different from the original, so bear with us. Clap if you want to, sing with
Yeah,
us.
you should
Have a
have.
blast! Woo!
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. Count your virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild. Sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, shepherds wait at the sight. Glory stream from heaven above, heavenly hosts sing hallelujah. Christ the Savior is born. Christ the Savior is born. Silent night, holy night, Son of God, love's pure light, radiant beam from thy holy face, with the dawn of redeeming grace. Jesus, Lord, at thy birth, Jesus, Lord, at thy birth.
Sing with us, song.
Silent night, holy night, all is gone, all is bright. Round your virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild. Sleep in heavenly peace, won't you sleep in heavenly peace? Won't you sleep in heavenly peace?
Hey, didn't they do a great job? Awesome. Hey, tomorrow is Christmas. So as you're opening presents, as you're enjoying time with your family, just remember that we have the choice to choose which path we take. Let me pray for you. Hey, Lord, as we go into celebrating your birthday, and we move into next year and things just get busier and busier in our lives, Lord, help us to feed the who that lives in us and not the Grinch. Help us to love those around us. Help us to forgive those that have hurt us. Help us to let go of the hurt and the pain that we might have been holding on to for years. And Lord, when we do this, we know through you we can experience life and life to the full. Thank you for your example of living. And thank you for laying down your life so that we could live for eternity with you. Amen. Hey, thanks for coming.